Today is the day. We are at the dyno. We just did the first few runs. Derek at IMW Tuning is tuning my car the best for Honda. We just did the first few runs though, and I'm recording this intro late. We were this close to not being able to dyno the car because of a problem that came up. I'm gonna tell you about that in a second. It's pretty cold out. So here's what's been going on. I didn't record a ton at the dyno just because I was more focused on experiencing the moment than having to record for YouTube. So there will be a decent amount of voiceover in this video. But leading up to the dyno, there's quite a few things I have to go over before we get into the actual dyno footage. For those of you who are new, this is my 2020 Honda Civic Si with a K20C4 engine out of a 2018 Accord that has been swapped into it. The dyno day is so important because it's going to test everything that I work for after all of the unfortunate circumstances that came up. I have a whole playlist if you want to check it out, but there was a lot leading up to this. I know in the last video I said I wanted to do injector cleaning. Turns out the shop I wanted to go to, who was supposed to be really good, was 3-4 weeks out, and I just didn't have the time for that. And I felt like it really wasn't necessary. What I did do is I ran a bottle of injector cleaner in the tank, and I know people have their stipulations about injector cleaners, but I figured we had it on the shelf at the shop. Didn't hurt to use, so put it in. It is what it is. And that was that. And it still seems to be running fine. Did it make a difference? I don't know. The one other thing that came up was I had a code for my O2 sensor come up, and this was after maybe 1,000 miles, which was really odd. I reflashed the tune, went away. I told Derek about it, and he said that it's a very, very important sensor. The primary O2 is crucial to tuning. So as a precautionary measure, I ordered a new one. $250 from Honda for a new one. Unbelievable. But I get parts for wholesale, so save me a little bit. I was under 200 after that. Still, it's a lot. But I changed that sensor, and it seems to be running fine. Those were just updates between when I posted my last video and leading up to the day of the dyno. The actual day of, early morning, we had to be there at 9 a.m. It was 2.5 hours away. Stopped, got a pork roll, egg and cheese sandwich. I'm sorry, those of you not from New Jersey don't know what pork roll is, but you're a loss. Anyways, we got to the dyno, got set up, and this is where we first noticed the problem come up. Derek got the car set up, we got the hubs on the car, he connected his stuff, he started doing some runs, started driving the car, and he noticed that not only was the car misfiring, but it was running insanely off the charts rich. First thing to check for would be a post-MAF leak, which would be a leak somewhere in the intake system because it would be indicative that the car is dumping fuel, it's sending fuel because it thinks it's getting air, but it's not getting the right amount of air because air is leaking out. But we checked, we didn't find any leaks, and it didn't surprise me because I was very vigilant about checking for these types of things. And I mentioned to him, hey, I changed these spark plugs and I noticed that it was acting a little different. Now I'm gonna backtrack for a second. Day before the dyno, I decided, hey, these spark plugs have over 40,000 miles. If it's cheap, I'll change them. OEM Accord spark plugs are $43 a piece. No way was I paying that. But I did a little research. I found that the Civic and Accord spark plugs are interchangeable. And I did more research. I found the generic NGK part number, bought them through Rock Auto, $10 a piece. Great. Changed them the day before, I gapped them down. I noticed the day of the dyno, I was driving there, and when I hit 5 or 6 PSI, the car started to break fire, seemed like it break up, it seemed like it was misfiring. And I brought this up to Derek. So naturally we thought, hey, let's change the spark plugs. And thank God, I brought an extra set of spark plugs in case something like this were to happen. Changed the spark plugs, car was running perfect. So either the set I got, there's some sort of severe electrical interference with the system, or I got a fake set, which is not common because Rock Auto is a reputable company and they didn't look fake, but there's a lot of fake plugs out there. So that's just a warning. I don't know if anybody else has had the same experience with their Civic or Accord. I don't know. Either way, I had a heart attack for a second because keep in mind, this was one of the most nervous moments of my life because after a year of hard work, all that time, all that money, it all led up to that very one moment and I had no idea what might happen. And changed the spark plugs and we finally started to get into doing some of the runs and things were looking up. look at that difference. You got that gas money, right? Getting 3 gallons of E85 for the, I believe it's an E30 blend we're gonna be tuning on. Almost finished up with the 93. Final numbers were 347 wheel horsepower on 93 octane. The limiting factor on that was actually the knock control. Something interesting Derek explained to me that I did not know was that on the 2020 SI specifically, on that ECU, he cannot adjust the knock parameters. Whereas on a 2017, 2018 SI, you can. So if he did have that adjustability, he would be able to stretch the horsepower on 93 octane a little bit further. I mean, just a little bit, because maybe 10, 15, 20 horsepower more, and it would run out of fuel. The fuel system would not be able to deliver more. So interesting fact about that, 93 octane was knock limited. On E30, we made 383, 4 horsepower, something like that. And the limiting factor on that was the fuel delivery. So the fuel system could not deliver any more fuel, and that's what ended up limiting it. A lot of people think the OEM Type R turbo cannot handle over 400. It can. Derek even told me it can do 410, 420, but it's a matter of fuel. That is the biggest issue on the Accord engines right now. There's not enough developments with the fuel. The injectors could do a little bit more. The fuel pump I upgraded the fuel pump already actually in the tank. Now on these newer Civics, a weird quirk people don't always know about is that part of the fuel system is driven by the cams. So in order to upgrade the fuel system, you need to upgrade the cams, which is obviously very complicated and annoying. There's an upgrade for the Type R, which does not work on the Accord, despite how similar the engines are. And there's an upgrade for the L15, the 1.5 liter, which is out, but you don't want to modify that engine. So that is what limited the car. Either way, made a ton of power, which is plenty of horsepower for a front wheel drive car. I want to explain this right now because people say this all the time. It's like, oh, it's only 380 horsepower. On a light front wheel drive car, that is a ton. And beyond that horsepower, you're just going to be running into traction issues. Like, you're going to be fighting the car. But regardless, if you do want more horsepower, the best part of this engine is that the capabilities are so much higher than the L15. The roof is so much higher. You can do so much more, and it can hold it so much better. The reliability, that's one of the biggest parts for me, is that I can go to the track now and I don't have to think, oh, is my engine gonna blow up? Because I would feel like that with the L15 because they don't have the best reputation. Whereas the K series are bulletproof. So I can beat on this car now. The K series will take it all day. I can go to the track all I want, and I don't have to worry about things blowing up. And if I want to go further, there is more horsepower that can be obtained. Here's a picture of the actual final numbers. And what's really cool about this graph is that it's overlaid with my old dyno setup when I had the L15 2 years ago. Derek still had this saved. The dotted lines are the old setup, the solid lines are the new. And you can see not only did I just pick up power across the entire curve, but I picked up a ton of low and mid-end torque and horsepower. And this is really impressive considering I have locked cams on the K series, which causes me to lose low-end torque. But I still, even with that, picked up more power over the L15. And you can see that in this big dip compared to this big hump. And again, that's just one of the big benefits of this. The L15 is a really tiny engine trying to push a big turbo, and you lose so much power on the low end. Whereas this, I have a beautiful middle curve where the torque is super flat, the delivery is really smooth, which helps not only with reliability, keeping a very linear torque, but also helps with wheel spin. And this again just goes into why there's so many benefits to the K series over the L15.
Hate it or love it what?
Hate it or love it, the underdog's on top. Before, I used to drive really conservative because I didn't have the power to like jump in front of people. Now I can though.
You're the asshole.
Now I can drive like an asshole.
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't gotten a ton of driving footage yet, but don't worry, coming very soon I'll have a POV drive so you guys can see a little more what it's like to drive, a little bit more of my thoughts on the experience and all that. And then also, for those of you that ask nonstop, yes, I will be doing a price breakdown. I will be talking about, brutally honest, about whether I think it's worth it, whether it's not, and more importantly, how it can be done cheaper. And I've also mentioned briefly, I'm planning on doing a memberships program through YouTube for those of you that really want step-by-step guidance and want to work with me. That's something I might be developing in the future. And with that out of the way, with the car essentially being done, and this is now a true final product, I have to give a huge thank you, actually, to two people. First, Tony, I'll put his Instagram on screen. He did the swap prior to me, and I could have never done this swap without his help. He walked me through so much of the process and was so helpful. I seriously could not have done it without him. So thank you to Tony. And also, thank you to Derek, my tuner. And I want to make it very clear that I am not paid in any way. I don't get any sort of discount. I am truly promoting him because I think he's the best. And unfortunately, in a scene where there is so much lying, there is so many bad products, there's so many people that are greedy, where they sell products and services just for the money. I'm not going to name any companies right now, but there's a lot of really bad business out there. And Derek is one of the few people who I know I can trust when it comes to these types of things. He's the type of person that will tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or whether or not. And that's what I love about him. And I love working with him. It's always a pleasure. He is a great guy. If you want to check out his Instagram, check out his website, make an appointment. If you have a Honda specifically, he is your best bet, hands down. So thank you so much to both of them. The very last thing I want to say is thank you to you guys. Some of you have been here since the very beginning and have been constantly supportive, and it means a lot. So thank you to all of you. We finally made it. The car is amazing. I couldn't be happier with it. And there's a lot of really good things to come to the channel. It's getting warmer. The car's where it should be, and I can't wait to make more videos. So thank you guys for watching. If you do not already know, I have an Instagram. If you want to check that out, I post on there before it comes on the channel. Check that out. And otherwise, that is all. Thank you guys for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.